Hi, I'm Shelton with Oklahoma 4-H, and you're watching an Oklahoma Ag in the Classroom lesson, What's Your Brand? The early Egyptians were branding their livestock with simple patterns as early as 2000 BC. The Spanish conqueror Hernando Cortés brought the practice of branding horses and cattle to North America in the 16th century. The American custom of branding cattle came from Mexico. Mexican caballero cowboys would mark their large herds with the owner's coat of arms. Today, there are hundreds of thousands of cattle brands registered throughout the United States. Animals can be branded with chemicals, paint, by tattooing, or even by tagging or ear notching. Ranchers in the American West branded their cattle to keep cattle rustlers from stealing them. If the cattle were stolen, the brand would prove who the real owner was. Since there were no fences in the American plains in those days, branding was also a good way for ranchers to know their own cattle from those of other ranchers. In Texas, there was at least one rancher who didn't like to brand his cattle. His name was Sam Maverick. Many of his cattle were stolen or wandered away. Since they had no brands, no one knew who owned them. That was how unbranded cattle came to be known as Mavericks. Ranchers today still brand their cattle to protect them from rustlers and to help identify them in case they get outside the fence or mingled with another herd. A rancher must register his or her brand in the state where he or she first started using it. A brand is considered property and can be inherited or passed down in a family. A ranch can have more than one brand, but they must all be registered. The location of the brand on the animal's body will be the same for every animal that belongs to that ranch. It may be on the animal's hindquarters, shoulder, or side. The brand never disappears and can even be seen in the hide after the animal is butchered. A registered livestock brand that is easy to read is a cow's only return address. Registered Oklahoma brands are recorded by the Oklahoma Cattlemen's Association, an organization made up of Oklahomans involved with the beef production, marketing, and distribution. Branding irons are formed from steel and placed on long handles. The branding iron is heated until it turns an ash color. Then it is pressed into the hide of the calf long enough to burn through their hair and the outer layer of skin. Some modern branding irons are electric with plastic gripped handles. Horses can be branded on the cheek, shoulder, or rump, but branding is not as common in the horse industry as it is in the cattle industry. Herdsmen have been branding their own cattle, sheep, and horses for thousands of years. Branding is the best way anyone has found to show who owns what animals. Many times, the brand will tell you something about the animal's owner or the ranch to which it belongs. Take a brand, for example, with 2 R's. It might be the initial of the owner, or it might be the initial of 2 different people who are partners on the ranch. A line drawn between the 2 R's can symbolize 2 hands shaking. It might tell you that the friendship is important to the owner. If you think branding hurts the animal, you are probably right, but it might not hurt as much as you imagine. Animal hide is thicker and tougher than your skin. Sometimes the brand will singe and burn the long hair on an animal, and that will cause some pain as well. The mark that is left is similar to a scar. It cannot be removed. Sheep are branded with paint or ink, which comes off when the wool is sheared from the sheep. When an owner gets ready to design a brand, he or she must be careful not to use one that is already registered. A book showing all the registered brands in the state can give the rancher ideas, but he or she cannot copy any registered brands for his or her own use. In Oklahoma, it is legal for one person to buy a brand from another person. Designs may be letters, numbers, pictures, or a combination of all of those things. Today's activity, we will be creating our very own brand. For this activity, the materials you will need is some pipe cleaners, a blank piece of white paper, a paper plate, and some paint. What you will do is you're going to be creating your very own brand design. As an example, I made this one earlier, the walking C. So now let's make our brand. You'll take your pipe cleaner and make whatever shape or letter or number that you would like. Let's try making an S. Super fun. You want to try and make your brand about the size of your palm. You don't want it to be too big, otherwise it gets a little challenging when we go to stamp it onto our piece of paper later. This is a little challenging, guys. You can do it. I have faith in you. So I made my S. Now I'll have to make the handle. So you can take another pipe cleaner, and I like to fold mine in half to make it more sturdy, and you can twist it around, then attach it onto any spot of your brand. Perfect. Now we'll take our paint, put a little bit on our paper plate, then take our brand that we just created, dip it in the paint, like so, and then stamp it onto our piece of paper. You might have to push down a little bit just to make sure that it creates the entire shape. Now let's try it with my walking C too. So I have my brand, Walking CS. For more information, you can go to 4h.okstate.edu or Oklahoma Ag in the Classroom.